Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of No Place Like Homaha. I'm your host, JD Wonder, alongside Mikey Love, because Nick still hates us. We want to welcome on the show Robbie Laughlin. Robbie played, yes, he played with us in college. Then he went on to a fabulous coaching career and still coaching now. So, Rob, do you want to give us kind of like a rundown of kind of, what happened with coaching, like where you're at now, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So like they said, I'm Robbie Laughlin. This is my 7th season coaching in college baseball. I was fortunate enough that I played with both JD and Mikey in college for, I think, a year, and then actually got to coach them for 2 years, I believe, before they graduated. So I played at Northwestern College with them. Was fortunate enough that when I got done playing, Coach Weedy asked me to stay on as one of his assistants. So I did that for the 18, 19, and then the cut short 2020 season. Kind of knew that I wanted to move on from Northwestern. After that, I was a place that is near and dear to my heart, but at the time there was really no place for me to go when I wanted to start to elevate my resume and stuff. So that COVID summer, I got married. I thought it'd be a really good idea to move my wife out to Montana. I took a head assistant job at Dawson Community College in Glendive, Montana. I always joke that my wife and I did not live in pretty postcard Montana. We lived in like the armpit of Montana. We had to drive like an hour just to get to a Walmart. It's like a town of 6,000 people. So her and I actually were just talking about it, that even though like our time there, like baseball wise and everything was great, but just like our life there wasn't, just because there was just nothing to do or anything like that. But she says how that's definitely one of her favorite parts of our marriage so far, regardless of how miserable she was. But yeah, so then after that, I got a job as the head assistant at Bryan and Stratton College. It's a junior college right outside of Milwaukee. So spent the last 2 seasons there. And then, Adam Carey, who's now the head coach here at Central College. He's been a buddy of mine for quite some time, and he got hired, essentially elevated as the head coach this summer, and called me asking if I wanted to be his hitting coach, essentially. And here I am now, but also had a lot of stops in collegiate summer leagues. I had the privilege of coaching Mikey one summer as well. We brought home a Corn Belt League regular season title.
Thanks.
But then I also spent a summer out in Myrtle Beach coaching in a collegiate summer league. And then probably my most recent stop was the 21 summer. I was the manager of the Wheat City Whiskey Jacks, who were at the time a part of the Expedition League, but the Expedition League is no more.
Oh, is that recent news, them not being anything?
They kind of formed into what is now the Independence League.
Okay.
And so it's pretty much like Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho was the summer I was out there. Okay. So yeah, it was crazy. My team was actually supposed to be based out of Canada, but in that 21 summer, the Canadian border hadn't opened yet.
Yeah.
So our home base was actually in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was pretty crazy. We would have some long road trips and bus rides. I remember on 4th of July, we played a game in Casper, Wyoming on 4th of July. And the game actually got stopped in the 7th inning so they could do a fireworks show. And then we resumed it. And luckily enough, we still came out with a W that night, but got on the bus and drove 13 hours back to Grand Forks, got back at about noon, and then actually had to play a 9-inning game that night at 7.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah,
Yikes.
It was a crazy summer, that's for sure.
My God. But probably fun, I would imagine, right? Or no?
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun actually. It was the first time that like it was a pretty serious summer league. So I had a lot of Division 1 guys on my team. You have like an owner and a real organization kind of that's, kind of has expectations for you and things like that. Um, I actually like had the privilege of coaching Zoe Hicks. So Zoe is someone that is just an incredible human being. She's a girl. And so she was the first female that played in the Expedition League. She just recently got named the MVP of the Canadian national team just like 2 weeks ago. So
Wow.
I remember it was a pretty big deal at the time, but her and I made it both really clear that, I was choosing her because I thought that she was a really good player, not because this is some publicity stunt that's going to put fans in the stands and stuff. But yeah, so like me having two twin girls now, like if they grow up to be half the person Zoe is, like I did a really good job as a dad.
Dang, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Are you looking to go anywhere for this up? I know that's still, 6 months down the road,
Yeah.
probably less, but is that something you're looking to do now or with you having
I wish I could. So the 22 summer and then last summer were my first 2 summers that I didn't coach.
Mhm.
I love it. I think it's like one of the most unique experiences coaches can do is coaching in collegiate summer leagues where like obviously I think you can kind of speak into a little bit, Mikey. Like I definitely the summer I coached you, like I wanted to win, but also like taking some responsibility and a bunch of guys' player development that I really don't have a horse in that race, right? Like if those guys get better, awesome. But at like it's not really on me, but me taking the ownership to try and make guys better like that in the summer. That way they can go to back to their school and have like an incredible fall that carries into their spring and hopefully the rest of their year. I always thought that was really cool, and it's just super fun to follow guys like you meet. Like I had the summer I coached the Whiskey Jacks, like I had a kid from Pepperdine, another one from St. Louis University, another kid from Portland University and Arkansas State. And like it's just so fun to follow them in their seasons now. Like I have a reason to turn on ESPN Plus and watch a Portland game because Jack Folkins is pitching that night. Like it's super cool.
So
Yeah,
like
I
working.
know.
Oh,
Oh, whoa, buddy, go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of build off that. So like working across the board with, you know, both playing and then coaching at the NAIA, then coaching at a JUCO, and then coaching with a wide variety of guys, whether it be D1, D2, D3, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's something that kind of stands out besides like, because obviously, D1 guys, they'll have a little bit different playing on the field, but what's something like within their mannerisms? What's just something that sticks out to you as a coach when you kind of see those
Yeah.
guys?
I think a lot of it is just how they show up. Um, you know, it was a good league I was coaching in like that year, the Expedition League. However, like majority of the guys that I was coaching, those were not guys that like started every game for their Division 1. So like they were coming into that league to face pretty good competition for the summer, but like their goal was to get better. They were trying to get, as many at bats as they could, as many innings pitched as they could. That way they could play a role into their team season that next year. So yeah, just probably the way that they came to work, right? The guys that I had on my team that were from Division 2s and NAIA's Division 3s, like those were the guys that played every day. And we were kind of just starting, right, to get into that transfer portal during then. So like those guys too, like they were everyday starters, but like some of them entered the portal that summer. So they were playing to try and put up good numbers that they could show other schools what they had. But yeah, definitely like the D1 guys, it's kind of how they presented themselves and how their mannerisms and their mantras on how they were on the field.
Yep.
Does that, so like, especially with the transfer portal, then I don't know how active or anything that is like with Central, but would you then, would coaches call you and talk to you about certain players, or like what is your experience with all that?
Yeah, so it was crazy. I had never thought that would become a thing for me. But I had coached 3 junior college guys that summer as well, that were going into their sophomore seasons at their JUCOs, and I fielded tons of calls from coaches about them. So the one of them in particular, his name's Dean Bittner. He would be a junior, I believe, at McNeese State now. And I actually ended up having like a really good connection with, like, gaining a really good connection with his recruiting coordinator there, because he probably called me 4 times that fall and winter asking me questions about Dean when he was still a sophomore, at Mesa Community College in Arizona. But yeah, so I definitely fielded a lot of calls. We had a kid that summer from a Division III out in Washington, who's now at St. Louis University. But he in July, he decided he was going to enter the portal. And I remember him coming up to me and asking me about it. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, it's pretty late in the game. Like, there's 300 names in the portal. I just don't know if this is a good idea for you, but no matter what, I'll support your decision and I'll help you in whatever way I can. He ended up actually transferring to Wabash Valley College, which is a complete and utter powerhouse junior college. Had a really good year there, and then ended up, now he's at St. Louis University and had a great season last year for St. Louis. But yeah, so I fielded some calls that summer for him when he's trying to make a decision within weeks. He entered the portal, and within a week he had committed to Wabash Valley. But he had, I had talked to St. John's on the phone about him and a couple other schools where it was just like, holy crap, like yeah, it was wild. That's for sure.
What is like, so like you all, I mean, at least I do. I won't speak for JD, but like we always hear, especially with like football, like kids entering the portal. Like, what exactly does that entail? Like, is it just something
Yep.
simply as like you go on a portal or like a website?
Yeah. So
boom, boom?
essentially, within the NCAA, pretty much every school has a compliance officer, and then they, hopefully, right, the kids sit down with their coach and let them know that they're going to enter the portal, and then they have a meeting with the compliance officer. And from my understanding, they fill out a form essentially, and then they get put into the transfer portal that, pretty much all NCAA schools have access to. And then from my understanding, they find the names there and stuff, and because they're in there, they're kind of free to talk to.
Okay. So like somebody that goes to Villanova could enter, and like you could see that in the portal, and you could reach out to them theoretically.
Yep. Yeah. And like D1 baseball does a really good job of, they kind of have their own tab on their website of the transfer portal, and Kendall Rogers does like an amazing job of updating that every day. So
Okay.
even as a junior college coach, the last 2 years, like in the summertime, I was living on D1 baseball, trying to find, at the time, like Wisconsin kids that had entered the transfer portal, that had a year. Well, it would be 4 and 3 years of eligibility left, right? To see if they would want to bounce back and have an opportunity to play a lot, to get their numbers up, to hopefully get them back to that level.
Gotcha. Is it like, how frequent is it then? Like people go from like a powerhouse like a Vanderbilt. I mean, I know you obviously hear the big news like Vanderbilt like transferring to Tennessee or whatever, but is it a common thing where like kids go from like a Central to a JUCO and then up?
I would say probably not. Generally, when we here at Central have kids that are transferring, it's because they generally are done playing baseball. It's a lot of times kids that come in and they don't really know what the expectation is here. And so they're kind of like in over their head and they just want to go to school someplace essentially. I know we once in a while will have the case that, the kid just doesn't have a good experience and he'll transfer to like another school to play. But generally, we don't have that happen too often, thankfully.
Do you ever, so like we had, I think, Jared Jones. I don't know if it's all that well, but like we just had him on a couple weeks ago and he was like, when we have kids that want to transfer out of, I forget the name of his school off the top of my head.
He's at Highland.
Yes, Highland. Thank you. He's like, when we have kids that want to transfer out, like we'll give recommendations and stuff, unless it's obviously to like a rival school or like there's bad, whatever. Like, are you guys the same way where like you'll?
Yeah. So like right now, like within our recruiting process and stuff, when we have kids on a visit, we have a head coaches meeting and Adam, our head coach, will, obviously playing time comes up, right?
Right.
And with us, just the way that our conference works and stuff like that, the American Rivers Conference, age typically wins. So teams that are mainly older guys will have a lot more success. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to play freshmen for sure, right? Like we're in the business of putting the best guys out there that are going to give us the best chance to win.
Right.
But with all that being said, like Adam always tells a story about last year's Central team that I wasn't a part of. They started 4 freshmen, 2 of which were like, they were ready to be out on the field, playing wise and maturity wise. They were ready to go and they had a lot of success. Now, the other 2 that played a lot, physicality wise, they were ready, but mentally they just weren't. And so they really struggled and it took away from their experience here. Now those 2 freshmen from last year, they did end up transferring. And Adam always says like that he has those were his guys that he recruited to Central. They have a great relationship still, minus the, other than it being that they didn't have a good baseball experience, but that was just because they weren't mentally ready to be out on the field every day.
Right.
And contributing at a high level. So one is actually at our conference rival, Simpson College. And I think Coach Carey would be the one that says like, he can't wait to beat them. Right.
Yeah.
And then the other one I believe is at Division III out in Illinois, where he's kind of close to home. But yeah, so generally, yeah, I know that I'm sure Adam gave lots of good reviews to those guys because he's definitely not the type to badmouth a kid for sure. And yeah, just like I said, they were really good kids from my understanding. They just really also kind of weren't our fit either that we're kind of looking for.
Yeah. Sorry, this is also building off. Like obviously the 3 of us know what it's like to play, at NAIA or like or like that kind of level. I believe Central's a D3, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah.
What is the biggest difference? So like some of the kids you said they just weren't mentally ready for that. Like, is there a big difference between NAIA and D3 or like?
I don't think that there's a huge difference. The biggest difference obviously is the time spent with athletes. The NAIA works on a weeks like calendar.
Yeah.
They get an X amount of weeks that they can work with their guys. So if I can remember right, like Coach Weedy would set it up that they have like it's like 28 weeks, I think, or something like that. 6-week fall season, 2 weeks in the winter time, and then you spend your last 20 weeks with the spring season. At the Division III level, we have 24 contact days. So we used 20 of those this fall. So we did 5 weeks of 4 practices a week.
Okay.
And then we have these 4 left right now that every Monday we, like me being the hitting coach, I meet with the hitters once a week on a Monday. And I kind of have an individualized plan for each guy. we kind of go over the first day on what that looks like for them. And then if they have any questions about the other days, they'll ask. But then after that Monday, it's just like, here you go, guys. Like, here's the plan. For the love of God, please do it the rest of the week.
Love God.
Yeah. So kind of building off of that, then, as far as then like we obviously know that baseball's kind of doesn't have a ton of scholarships best run. Like at the D1 level, I think it's 11 and a half scholarships per 45-man roster. But at the D3 level, how different does that look? Sorry, I got on my own spit, but how different does that look compared to like the other levels, and like what's some ways you can get kids in that way?
Yeah, this has been quite the adjustment level for me. Like the first 6 years of my coaching career, right? Like I'm able to essentially give guys scholarships to come to whatever school I'm coaching at. And I think we definitely live in a day and age where kids love the sound of getting a baseball scholarship to go play somewhere, right? But we're fortunate enough that here at Central, like they do give, really good financial aid packages to kids for their merit, right? So, it really pays for us to recruit kids that are good at baseball and really good in the classroom. The biggest thing I think for us here at Central is identifying guys who we believe are Central guys, guys that are, obviously high-level baseball players, guys that are mature on the field, but the most important thing is that they're good in the classroom and they're mature in the classroom. Because the last thing we want is to get kids here that aren't going to have a ton of success off the field, like in the classroom and stuff, because Central is definitely a high academic institution. So the academic rigor for sure can be a lot sometimes. So we have to make sure that we're doing a really good job of getting guys like that. But yeah, so we're fortunate enough though that they do give pretty good financial aid packages for the most part to our guys and stuff like that. So that definitely helps. And as far as like Iowa goes, sticker price wise, like Central is like the lowest that out of all the private schools in the state, sticker price wise. So if you went on and looked at all the other tuitions across the state, just looking at tuition as far as private schools go, Central is definitely one of the lowest, if not the lowest. So that helps a little bit too, for sure.
I was going to say, do you guys find it hard, since you can't just give out, baseball scholarships, do you find it harder to get guys to kind of commit to you just based off of that? Or is it?
Yes and no. A little bit, because like I said before, sometimes kids can be a little bit tricked by the fact of them getting a baseball scholarship and then having Central recruit them and them technically not getting a baseball scholarship. What we always like to say is that, hey man, you're really good, and if we could give you a baseball scholarship here, we 100% would. That's why you're sitting in our offices right now. And then like I said, the biggest thing is that kids are generally committing to play baseball at Central because they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. And they have a really good relationship with our coaching staff. And I think we do a really good job in recruiting that. Kids generally, like when they come to Central, it's like the last piece of their recruiting process, right? So like in our recruiting process, we make it that way. That way, when kids come on campus, they're just trying to figure out if they can truly see themselves here at Central for the next 4 years. They're not trying to figure out tons of questions that they need to ask and things like that. If the three of us, myself, Coach Carey, our other assistant, Coach Boleen, if we're doing our jobs right, there's really not a whole lot of questions that are asked on the visit. It's just the kid truly having the opportunity to feel as if he would be a good fit in our program for the next 4 years.
So you're more of like I don't, this is probably not the right way of wording it, but like you guys really embody, the student athlete part of it more so than like, oh, we want you here to play baseball first and
Athlete
then be a
student.
student, is
Yeah,
what it seemed like at least.
yeah, I think so for sure. The biggest thing with us is the relationship piece.
Mm,
Um, we always tell our recruits that if you want to come to Central, because you want to get a really good education and get better at baseball, that's awesome, but it's not good enough to play in our program. We're looking for guys that are bought into leaving the Central College baseball jersey in a better place than what they found it in.
mm,
So that's like a huge part in the recruiting process with us is trying to find that fit. So like I know for me at least, like before coming to Central, I'd probably have like one phone call with a kid, information overload, and just spew a bunch of information at the kid, and then check in every couple weeks to see if we can get that kid on campus for a visit.
mm.
Whereas now I probably at minimum have 4 phone calls with a kid before even stepping foot on campus. The kid does.
Wow.
Because it's essentially kind of like a vetting process with us. Like we're not reaching out to a kid that we don't think could have an impact on the field in our program. Like we're only looking for those guys, right? Now we use all those phone calls to make sure that the kid's going to be a right fit with our guys and our coaching staff and the school and all that stuff. And I tell guys all the time, like, if you don't choose Central, like I'm not going to think any less of you, right? Because at the end of the day, if I trick you into coming to Central, it's only going to hurt both of us, right? Like at the end of the day, you're not going to have a good experience. I'm going to be upset because you clearly aren't enjoying your experience here and you're not helping anyone else out, right? So I tell guys, like I genuinely care about where you end up, regardless if it's at Central or not.
Interesting. I feel like though that's not like that's not something that I don't want to say is embodied by a lot of people. Because I feel like most of the time people just want, their programs to succeed. And like rightfully so. But very
Yeah.
rarely, I guess, do you see, somebody want to put the kid ahead of like their own agenda.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's just like we always say that, if we went and we won a national championship at the Division III level and we did it with a bunch of turds on our team, like we're not going to have any fun, right? Like we'll be just as miserable with a bunch of turds winning a national championship as we would if we didn't have any turds and we only won 5 games, right?
Yeah.
We're very much bought into the fact that if we're recruiting kids that are like genuinely good kids, the player development stuff's going to take care of itself because we're really bought into what we're doing with our guys. And if they're bought into that, they're going to skyrocket right in our program, regardless, where they come in at. We think we do a really good job with player development, that if we can find the guys that are good kids too on top of it, we can definitely have a little bit of a better edge against the competition.
So what would you say then?
Because then you find guys that are willing to do things that maybe that other guy wouldn't. Like a really big saying in our program right now is that if you're going to go places you've never been, you've got to be okay with doing things you've never done. And so, I heard that this year from our head coach, Coach Carey, and like, it fires me up. I want to like run through a brick wall I'm like, if I had a tattoo, I think it'd be that. Like,
yeah. I love it. So then kind of building off of that then. So, I mean, you kind of just mentioned it. What are some coaching like philosophies in that you have like both seen in this program and you agree with, like that kind of saying, or like what are some individual ones that you have that kind of match with the program, or just even your own?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that the one I just said is pretty big. Getting our guys to understand that. I mean, I am definitely, and I think you guys can speak on a little bit too, that like Coach Weedy over at Northwestern, very much a forward thinking human being, is definitely wants to try new things and do whatever's best to make his program as good as it can be. Coach Weedy over there is like a dad to me. He's definitely like my mentor. I think incredibly highly of him. So like, I think playing for him and then coaching under him gave me that kind of same attitude that, if I'm going to be as successful as I want to be in this world, this occupation, I've got to be okay with doing different things, right? If I would have came into Central and tried to recruit the same way that I have for the past few years, which I think I've done a pretty good job in the recruiting world, leading up to this, but me being open to trying new things with it has led me to be a definitely better recruiter for sure than what I am right now, or what I was. But like other things like, the late Coach Robichaux, he was the head coach at Louisiana Lafayette for years. You guys being Omaha guys and stuff, I don't think they made it to the College World Series, but like they had years where they were like the first mid-major to be a consensus #1 team in the country. And he has tons of great one-liners. He essentially, his biggest one that I remember, it's a pinned tweet on my Twitter, that essentially when I die and I go to heaven, if I get greeted by God and he says that, I sent you hundreds of young men over the years, and all you did was turn them into good baseball players, I didn't do my job right. I'm very much into instilling some sort of culture that guys are becoming, better husbands, better fathers, and just better general, members of society, right? That's a big one for me, for sure. Like the relationship piece with guys is huge for me. It's one of the big reasons I wanted to get back to the 4-year level. The last 3 years at the JUCO level, I made incredible connections and stuff with guys. Still check up on those guys and stuff like that, but it really sucked. I only had 2 years with those guys, right? I was trying to find them a new place the whole time they were with me, right? So the fact that I'm back at the 4-year level, I get 4 years to see kids grow from the moment they step foot on campus as, an 18-year-old to leaving campus as a 22-year-old. Like I'm super excited to be back at that, because I truly get to see them grow, and from a kid into a young man.
Love that.
I was gonna ask, what's that experience been like? But then you just got there, so you can't find that. So that would be a dumb question.
MSQ, baby.
Stop. Stop. Didn't need to say that.
It needed to be said. You need to be humbled sometimes.
Rob, you see what I have to deal with all the time?
Hey, I'm here. Where's Nick? Not here. He's in a tree.
Shut up. So that's if this is unrelated to really anything we've asked, but if you could take everything that you have now, all the knowledge you have now, and you could go back to any, or stay at Central now, like if you could go back to any college and do it over, where would you go?
I mean, I'm super happy here. This is definitely a place that, unless the Hawkeyes call me or Coach Carey fires me, I'm gonna be here for a while, that's for sure. And as my resume wouldn't really show it, because I have kind of bounced around lately, but I am definitely a guy that tries his absolute best to be where his feet are. Now, obviously, if Coach Weedy decided to hang it up tomorrow, being the head coach at Northwestern would be something that's super special to me. That place holds, like I said, an incredibly special place in my heart. It probably helps a little bit with Mariah that her parents are right there in town too. So our girls would be able to be right down the street from their grandparents. But no, I'm really happy where I'm at right now. I keep telling Adam and Ian, our other assistant, that I haven't felt this good about a squad and I don't think ever. I think we have a really, really talented squad here. So I'm super excited to see how our spring season goes. This is a place that the past couple of years have been tough, but we are in a really good spot in our program, I think, right now. We're in a good spot where we have some experience. So it'll be a fun spring, I think, that's for sure. So if you guys don't plan on following Central baseball, you have a reason to now.
There we go.
Good to know. You can blink twice too if you were forced to say that. Just
I love it here.
FYI. If someone's holding a gun to you on the other
Someone's
side of
just
that
behind the camera. Yeah, that's right. You said it.
You did answer one of the questions. I was going to ask if Weedy did hang it up and you were offered that. Would you?
Yeah,
would you go?
Definitely. I think, yeah. Just because I love that place. It's a place that it's priceless, the amount of things I owe to that place. It groomed me into the person I am today, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just Coach Weedy and the baseball piece, everything about that campus and the people on it and things like that, the community of Orange City, everything. It's great, which is probably also why I like Central so much too, is because Pella and Orange City are incredibly similar. However, I might upset some people up in Orange City, but Pella is definitely the bigger brother for sure. It's Pella is Orange City on steroids. So
yikes.
I've heard that. I mean, they have what, canals running through the city, right?
They do,
parts
yeah.
of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the largest operating windmill in the US. So
Very
it's pretty
Dutch.
crazy stuff. Yeah, obviously the bakery in town, Jarsma's, is top notch. It's way better than the Dutch bakery that we all would get midnight donuts from.
Nick, we're gonna have to edit that out. We're gonna have to go in and cut that part.
We're gonna emphasize that.
Emphasize.
Yes. Gotta get a little
bubble. You guys are gonna have to venture your way over here because you're missing out. I didn't know I was missing out all these years, but
just stayed ignorant.
Oh, we might have to travel down and see if we can't catch.
Down. We're going up.
Let me say what I want to say.
You'd be over. You're coming over.
I'm about to go over and slap Jay for being
you guys. We play. I think our first conference series is one of the first conference series is at Nebraska Wesleyan. So we play at Nebraska Wesleyan March 29th. So you guys will have to venture over to Lincoln.
He
said
might have to do it though. Might have to do it.
Yeah.
Depending on the weather. It's cold,
yeah.
Probably not.
You're right.
But we've all played enough in that good Iowa spring to make it through. What was it worse up in
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, yeah. The springs?
No, not really. Our region at Bryan and Stratton was mostly, so it was Bryan and Stratton, Milwaukee area technical college, and then Madison College were the 3 Wisconsin schools in our region. And then every other school in our region was in Northern Illinois. So it wasn't too bad. We definitely played in some pretty cold days for sure. Nothing rivals anything that I went through in Montana though.
Oh,
Really?
yeah, I'd imagine.
So
I guess, yeah.
the month of February, the year we were in Montana, the month of February, it didn't get above 0. So like we're talking 28 straight days of below
Negatives.
0.
Oh gosh.
Oh my
I don't know
god.
if I could do that.
That's awful.
Yeah. We I forget who I was telling this story really recent, but we went to Provo, Utah to play against Utah State Eastern, a really good JUCO out in Utah. Played a 4-game series against them. And when we showed up to the field, from center field all the way to the right field foul pole, in the warning track, just like 3 inches of snow, like just in that spot. So like if guys hit a ball that went into the warning track in those places, dead ball, ground rule double. And the Dawson Community College Buccaneers had never hit so many balls into that warning track. We would have had an unlimited amount of triples, I feel like, that weekend, but we hit so many doubles instead.
Oh my god.
But so we played like Saturday, Sunday, and on Sunday, in the middle of game 1, it just started like a blizzard. Just, you couldn't even see, like we were in our dugout down the third baseline. You couldn't even see the pitcher's mound for like 20 minutes. Stopped snowing. We go into like a 30-minute delay, and in 30 minutes, all the snow had melted.
What?
It was the wildest thing I've
gosh.
ever experienced before.
That is wild. That's baseball up north.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy,
That's
man.
west.
Yeah. Yeah, but look at it on the
Nope. Shut up.
from the equator.
Nope. Shut up.
Dummy.
Everything is north of the
Get a
equator.
map.
Ding dong.
Hit the showers, bud.
You.
See you
Your
later.
comment is irrelevant.
Stupid.
I'm done with this. I'm not.
All right, well,
I'm not talking to you
I
anymore.
get
Jay.
okay. I mean, I'm all finished with my questions. Mike, you got any more
No.
for him?
Yes, I have
Okay.
unlimited amounts.
There
I
you
can
go.
talk to you for hours, but we're not going to do that. I'll just ask like one more, and then I will leave you to your own demise. Well,
But
2 more.
Is that a
2 more.
threat? Is that a threat?
No. No. Stop talking. You're ruining the
His
vibe.
own devices, not demise.
No.
I don't know what you're
Anyway.
talking about.
Anyway, what would you? I think we've asked this to loads of people, but like, what would you tell or say to a potential, like to a high school senior looking to play at the next level, or like potentially looking to come to Central, like just kind of like give your spiel for Central, or like as well as like what kids should be looking for, or what they should expect.
So I mean, I think the biggest thing, the unsolicited advice that I definitely give guys is like, go where you're wanted, and then go where you're gonna have go where you're wanted, go where you have the best relationship with those coaches, and go where you're gonna get playing time, right? For sure. I think those 3 things are like really, really crucial in how your experience is gonna play out. Because if you go someplace where you're not wanted, you go someplace where you're not, like, you don't have a good relationship with the coaches, and then you go someplace that's like you're never gonna play there, why are you going there then, right? And unfortunately, like, we see kids make those decisions sometimes, and it sucks. But no, like, I have the summer I lived in Omaha coaching in the Corn Belt, I had a host family, wonderful host family, the Geezers. But they have a son who is a sophomore in high school right now, and he goes to Creighton Prep. They live in like the Millard West school district. So
yeah,
it was either like go to Millard West
Also, boo.
or go to Creighton Prep essentially. And
Okay.
I mean, I would assume, right? I don't really know, but I would assume that Creighton Prep schooling is a little bit better than Millard West. Just
Yep, probably. Safe
right,
bet.
like you would assume. So they chose Creighton Prep in a little smaller school, right? So Jacek, the sophomore, didn't have to be like a little fish in a big pond type of deal. But I've essentially kind of become like an advisor, I guess you could say, for Jacek. His parents and him call me at least once a month to ask questions about what they should be doing with Jacek and what things he should be working on. You know, should he go to this X camp or, you know, this showcase or something like that. And so I've definitely had a little bit of experience trying to help them out with stuff like this. And I definitely need to get out and watch Jacek play this spring so that I can be a little bit better at it. And plus see if Jacek is a kid I need to start recruiting, right? But no, so I've kind of became that for them, and it's been fun, and I'm excited to kind of see where he ends up and whether I like it or not. They're going to ask me for my opinion when the day comes, and so hopefully I give them a good answer that is insightful and helpful for them.
Yeah. Why should a kid like that, or why should a kid like Jacek, potentially pick Central between, Simpson?
Yeah, well, I mean, one, he doesn't want to get beat by us for the next 4 years every time we play him. But also just because I think what we have going on here is just we're giving a really good experience to the guys. We don't over recruit. We have a general number that we like to stay between with a roster size, and like we do have a JV team. But it's all one roster. There's no separate coach or anything like that. All of our guys practice together. We essentially use our JV team as like a farm system. So generally guys that are playing on the JV team are freshmen and or sophomores that we foresee are going to play a role on the varsity in the soon, like near future. It's not like if we have a senior on our team that is a great kid, but unfortunately he's just not that talented. It kind of stinks for that guy because he might not really get to play a whole lot. Because we're trying to use that JV team to get guys lots of reps and stuff that we feel they need to get if they're going to help us out. Now, like seniors and stuff in our program that might not, play a lot, we try to give them the best experience possible, right? They travel with us and they make the trip to Florida, things like that. We try our best to give them the best experience as possible. But like I said, at the end of the day, like we're trying to win baseball games, right? At the end of the day, winning is a lot more fun than losing, right?
True.
Bless you.
So, like, guys just kind of have to know what they're getting themselves into, I guess. But I don't think we'll have very many seniors this year or in the near future that aren't contributing for us. But just the way that college baseball works, it does happen sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Jay, I have no more questions.
Okay. Well, Rob, do you have any questions for us or anything like that?
No, I don't think no questions. I'm just so appreciative of you two that you guys do this and you asked me to be on the pod. I was fired up when Mikey messaged me. I was like, I don't know if you know this, but I've been a pretty long time listener. So this is like an honor to be on the pod.
He's an OG.
No idea.
What away, OG.
That's enough. You're done, bud.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Robbie, for stopping by. If you are already a follower of the podcast, like Robbie is, thank you for following us. Please like and subscribe to our videos. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok at homahapod. We are also out on all podcasting platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. Shout out Cronyo Media for helping us get onto those platforms. And thank you to our sponsors. We got Dubby and Shank It Golf.
Imagine Robbie's not actually following any of our stuff. Imagine.
I am
He's like,
definitely a follower
yeah,
on Twitter.
I'm following.
Definitely a follower on Twitter.
For sure.
Done something.
There you go.
We will
But
take it.
yes. So again, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yes, boss man. Thank you.
See, you guys can see it.
There it is.
It says following.
We did it.
Another victory royale. Oh, geez.
All right. We will catch you guys then later.